Hi, my name is Dr. Cia DiMartino, and I'm going to talk to you today about copyright and fair use in the classroom. I've been advising universities on copyright for about 15 years. However, I am not a lawyer, and this is for educational purposes only, and this is only the briefest of overviews. There's a lot more to dive into here. In this talk, I'm going to outline the two types of copyright rules for classrooms, online and face-to-face. And I'm going to help you understand the 4 ways that fair use is decided in a court of law in the United States. Copyright is when any creative work or invention has been fixed in some physical form. It means written down, sculpted, painted. That means not ideas, not facts, and not processes. In a traditional classroom, copyright rules are very weak. You can't give away entire copies of work, especially those that were made for the classrooms, just textbooks or workbooks. And if you show a movie, you want to make sure you are showing a legal copy that you bought legally. Otherwise, you're pretty much free to make copies and distribute face-to-face almost any material in your classroom. In an online classroom, it's not so cut and dry. You don't have quite as much leeway. You want to make sure that you do put things, when you put things, they're on LMS, they're on a password protected learning management system, so only your registered students can access them. And you want to make sure that you're not using really old files, like you don't have an old book, for example, scanned that you're copying into course after course after course. Remember that links are safer, and in general, links are much safer than actually uploading and having your students download those files. Maybe just better to have them link it to the article you want. If you feel like those rules were too stifling for you and you need to do something like, for example, you want to make physical copies of a textbook, then you might be able to use a fair use argument. Fair use is a restriction of copyright law in the US based on 4 factors. That's purpose and use, the nature of the work, the amount taken, and the effect that your taking of that amount has on the market. These things are decided in the court of law, so you have to make sure you have a good argument before using the material, just in case you are expected to explain yourself. However, being able to explain yourself will highly increase the odds that you are not going to have to pay a fine for using that. That's very important. So first, let's talk about purpose. If your use is transformative or critical, then that supports your use, your fair use of a copywritten material. And if you're using it for nonprofit or educational purposes, that also supports your fair use. But this is not a blanket thing. Just because you're a nonprofit educational institute does not mean you can start, for example, distributing copies of Disney movies. Disney will come down on you. Nature of the work. Is it previously unpublished or has it been published? If it's been published before and still on the market, that supports your fair use. And if it's nonfiction, that also supports fair use versus fiction, where the characters were created by that author whole out of cloth. That's harder. It's a harder fair use argument. The amount taken. The court wants to see you only take what you need, and less is generally thought of as better. However, if you've heard to that term up to 10%, that's not an official thing. Most textbooks, however, 1 chapter is okay. Just make sure that that 1 chapter isn't iconic and a big part of the whole. That's the one case where it's not. And then effect on the market. Are you potentially threatening the income of that publisher, for example, by reproducing that copyright material? How many times are you using it? Is it just this one news article because it's relevant now, or do you plan on using it every semester? How many copies have you created, and who has access to that copies? That's the big deal with online versus face-to-face. Face-to-face, you're limited by the number of copies, and online, it's an infinite number of copies can be made. And whether that item is still in print. If you can buy it, if it's still in print, That does not support your fair use argument as much as if something was out of print, and so you put it on yourself to start printing it and distributing it again. That's it for now. Good luck and take care.